Yeah, hello dear students. So let us know what is this the last part in working capital management, that is approaches to working capital. So you need to know these approaches to working capital. So when I say approaches, there are three types: conservative, aggressive and moderate. Now let me say what is this conservative approach. Conservative approach is an approach where a person, if he is very conservative, he will always want to play safely. He want to take some protection and then he wants to play. Okay, so business also, when they want to play safely, don't want to take too much of risk, in that case we call that kind of attitude as conservative. Okay, so you know conservative. Now let us see aggressive. Aggressive is a kind of uh, firm, aggressive, where the firm is not fearful of anything, they are ready to take the risk. Okay, so next, the last one is a matching concept. Matching or a moderate concept, you understand that neither they are playing safely nor they are going for taking any risk, so they want to match between the short term and long term. So when we say these three types of approaches, you need to know something called as permanent and temporary current assets. So what is this permanent current assets? Permanent current asset is an asset which is always needed by the firm during its manufacturing process. Okay, anytime you start your production process, you want that much of amount as current asset. Okay, so you understood permanent current asset. Next, what we have is a temporary current asset. So temporary current asset is a current asset that is needed only when an emergency arises, or maybe sometimes during a seasonal um, during a season where the demand is huge, so you need that only at that particular point of time. So next, let us see the three types of approaches. They are matching, conservative and aggressive. So first I will start with the matching approaches. As I told you, matching, the word itself says you that we are going to match between the assets. So how is it matched? Okay, so there are two types of current asset, as I told you, permanent and temporary, as well as we have two types of financing option that is available to us. So if you want a permanent current asset, from where do you take, whether you're going to take it from a short term or whether you're going to take it on a long term? So that is dependent on the which concept you are taking or which approach you are following in your company. So we have short term financing, long term financing. Okay, and we have working capital on the left side and we have time. So you understood what is short term, you know, right? Long term. So short term financing is a financing, for example, if you have taken from bills receivable or treasury bill, these are all short term financing where you can get immediately the financing facility, whereas long term financing is you're taking from by going to a bank loan which is more than 1 year, so we call it as a long term. Okay, next let us move on to how to draw these things and understand. Is we have three types of assets. One is fixed asset, another one is current asset. Again I told you current asset is divided into two: permanent current asset and temporary current asset. So in the matching, what they are doing is fixed asset and permanent current assets are uh, financed by long-term financing opportunities, and current asset is financed by short-term. The fixed asset is always taken by long-term only, that you need to remember. Then we have to see about permanent and temporary. So permanent current asset as well as fixed assets are taken by long term, and only temporary current asset is taken by short term financing. Next, let us see the conservative approach. So in the case of conservative approach, as I told you, conservative is you're playing safely. That means you will always take long term. You don't want to take the risk of having short term. So all the three are taken by long term, but not fully. See here, fixed asset is taken by long term, permanent current asset is taken by long term, only a part of temporary current asset is also taken by uh, long term current assets, and remaining only is taken by short term current assets. So I repeat again, in the conservative, fixed asset is taken by long term financing, Then permanent current asset also you're taking the money from long term, whereas part of temporary current asset is also taken by, because I told you conservative means you want to be safe. So permanent fixed as well as temporary, part of temporary only are taken by and remaining only a part of temporary is taken by short term. Next we have is an aggressive. I told you aggressive is a type of approach where the business is or it wants to take the risk. So what they will do now, so instead of going for long term, they will now use more of short term. That means here fixed asset and permanent current assets, only part of permanent current asset is taken by long term, and temporary current asset as well as part of permanent current asset is taken by short term finance. See here, temporary and part of permanent current asset. That means more financing is done by short term in the case of aggressive, whereas in the case of conservative it is reverse, more financing is done by long term. So here fixed asset, permanent current asset as well as part of temporary current asset is financed by long term because you're fearful, so that is conservative. Aggressive means you're not fearful, so what you're doing here is temporary current asset you're taking by short term financing, as well as some part of permanent current asset is also financed by short term financing. So these are the three approaches of working capital. Thank you.